It was a lively debate. There are obviously very distinct differences between us. I think the one thing that he did not answer is why he supports a change of our current tax system to a national sales tax of 23%. That's a massive tax increase on senior citizens. He didn't address that. You know, a lot of our senior citizens in South Florida, the only income they have is Social Security. They don't pay a lot of income tax. They're retired. He's now adding a big tax of 23% on every time you go to the supermarket, you buy a bottle of milk, every time you fill up a car, $8 on top of that. That is a very big tax increase, particularly at a time when we have a fragile economy. We want to do whatever we can to help our families and our businesses.
Now, he said, to clarify, that the the sales tax would only be something that would be as a replacement if you abolished all other federal taxes. So I don't think he would characterize it as a tax increase. I mean, what do you think of that idea of replacing the progressive income tax or with a national sales tax?
On behalf of the 130,000 seniors that live in the 22nd district, I would say that's outrageous, because many of these people don't pay income tax right now or pay small amounts of income tax. They're retired. They paid income taxes their whole life. So if Mr. West supports the idea of a 23% increase on every single thing that they buy, whether it's a piece of furniture, whether it's a bottle of milk, whether it's a tank of gas or a movie ticket, I think that is a massive tax increase on our senior citizens in South Florida, and I think it's absolutely wrong.
Strongest point you felt you made today?
I think the biggest difference is, Mr. West has some very strong views, and I appreciate that. This is a process that you have to work with people. You can be as principled as I am and as he is, but the reality is at the end of the day, you have to work with everyone. You have to work with Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. I have always represented everybody in this community. I work with Ileana Ross-Lehtinen, as I mentioned, on a big Medicare fraud bill. We work together on this. I work on our homeowners insurance bill. Every single member of our delegation supports it, Democrat and Republican. Mr. West has said in his speeches, and it's documented over and over again, I don't believe in inclusiveness. I don't believe in outreach. Those are his quotes. That's the opposite way of doing things to get things done. It certainly won't create one job in Florida.
You mentioned several endorsements. You got the VFW PAC, AARP. You also mentioned he received the endorsement of Sarah Palin. Do you take issue with Sarah Palin's endorsement of him? Do you have an issue with her in particular?
Well, first of all, I didn't say AARP. AARP doesn't do endorsement. I said the teachers. I said local law enforcement, the VFW PAC. Very proud. I also didn't mention David Brady. Yesterday, David Brady, Mr. West's opponent in the primary, came forward and said, I'm endorsing Klein because as a conservative Republican, where he comes from, and he made the point that I've been a conservative Republican longer than Mr. West has even voted, which has only been 6 years, that he believes that he and I share a common view on how to fix the economy. He's a businessman, and he gets it. And he also quoted, and these are his words, not mine, that Mr. West is radical and extreme and unfit for public office.
But back to Sarah Palin. You mentioned her several times. Was that a slight towards Mr. West?
I think Sarah Palin has a lot of very extreme views. And to the extent that he has identified with her and she has endorsed him, I think that's very significant. She believes in oil drilling off the coast of Florida, and Mr. West does as well. I strongly disagree with that. I think she has had a number of very, very extreme positions on Medicare and Social Security. So, obviously he's comfortable with that. I think it's something that the public should know. She has provided a lot of financial support through various contacts that she has provided for him. So I think that's a relevant piece of information for the public to consider.
The president has been campaigning for you. A lot of people consider him a liability. What do you have to say?
Well, listen, anytime the president of the United States, whether it's President Bush or President Obama, will come to Florida and meet with people and talk about issues, I'm all for it. I don't agree with the president. I didn't agree with President Bush all the time, but I agreed on certain things. You have a responsibility to represent this community first. I disagreed strongly with President Obama when he said we want oil drilling off the coast of Florida. I disagreed strongly with President Obama when he has, in dealing with Israel on the settlements. And I was very public about it, and I had a chance to talk to him one-on-one, and I told him that it was the wrong thing to do, and I thought it was going to undermine the peace negotiations. At the same time, when he's right, I will support him, such as the Iran strategy at this time. I do support him, and I worked on that. So I think the bottom line is, the president is doing the best he can, but certainly I don't agree with him all the time, and I represent this community first.
Were you there on the tarmac yesterday? I saw Deputy Wasserman Schultz. Was that a conscious decision on your part?
No. I had to be at WPPT in Miami. We had to do some taping.
Why no pictures of you and the president yesterday?
I wasn't with him until the event itself. I came from WPPT.
Do you think Sarah Palin's endorsement of Mr. West hurts him with some voters more than Mr. Obama supporting you hurts you with some voters.
Well, listen, obviously some people have different views of the different people. Sarah Palin, to me, is someone who is outside the mainstream in South Florida. I think many people think that President Obama is trying, and some people will agree or disagree. As I said before, there are many things that I disagree with, and I've said them out loud, and will continue to fight for this community. It doesn't matter who the president is, Democrat or Republican, just like the leaders, Republican and Democrat, both Boehner and Pelosi. If they're on the wrong side of something and it's important to South Florida, I'm going to be all over them.
So you weren't trying to avoid pictures
No.
with you and the president?
Why do you think the crowd was so rowdy today? They interrupted you several times. You had to pause to let them quiet down.
Well, I think they were rowdy on both sides. So, I had a chance to say what I wanted to say, and I think, as I said, it was a very good debate. I thought we had a chance to lay it out on both sides.
It was a tough crowd for you, really. Does that make it tougher for you to get your points across in a debate format like this?
No. I've had the chance to debate Mr. West before multiple times. We had one more debate coming up, and it's a great privilege to get out in front of the public. Listen, we have a responsibility to talk to the voters, and I personally have worked with the community leaders and individuals on Social Security issues and Medicare and business issues over the years. I'm very proud of what I've done. I know that my belief in this process of running for office and asking for the vote is the highest level of privilege in our democracy, so I'm happy to do it.
Do you endorse Charlie Crist?
I have not endorsed Charlie Crist.
You mentioned a trip to Israel where you said you witnessed firsthand what the Israelis were going through as far as air raids. Are you saying you personally witnessed and were involved in an air raid, or
Yeah,
did
no,
you
I
cover?
was up in the northern part of Israel when the rockets were coming down from Hezbollah, just north of Haifa. And yes, we were under attack. The air raid signals, air raid sirens went off. Everybody's scattering. You see kids having to be underground in these bunkers and how they have to live their lives every day of the week with these shells coming in. These rockets were scattered all over the place. It is a very scary situation, and it really makes you empathize with what Israelis in the northern border and being shelled outside Gaza, what they have to live with every day. We as Americans live in a safe country. And because we have a very strong military, Israel is surrounded by enemies. So, as Israel's strongest supporter and ally, the United States, we have a responsibility to do whatever we can. And one of the things that Israel recently asked for of this country, and we are giving it to them, is something called the Iron Dome, which is a rocket defense system which will better protect the civilian population. And I support that.
Last question.
In regards to the building of the New York City mosque, what is your sense?
I think it's the wrong place to do it. I think this is sacred land where the largest terrorist attack against the United States ever occurred, and I think it's legally they may be able to do it, but it's incredibly poor judgment. I think they can put it somewhere else, just like you could put a synagogue or a church in another place. But I think that's not the right place.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Great.